going to be a bodybuilder, a drug-free bodybuilder. I think I made that decision, and here we are, 15 plus years later.
So respect on the drug-free side, because obviously this is kind of like one of those industries.
Some people need a lot of steroids, and other people just don't. But that's, you just never know. Now, the more muscle tissue you have as you age, the healthier you will be. All right.
Welcome to another episode here at Empire is the Way. Today's guest is Coach Russ. Man, sports science, 15 years changing lives. We're going to talk today about nutrition. We're going to talk about, slow workouts, proper form, everything that has to do with the gym. So you guys are in for a good one today. Coach Russ, I appreciate you coming in, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, man. What got you into the world of fitness? How did it start?
So, realistically, it was a transition from BMXing into resistance training. From the time I got injured, I broke my foot amongst many injuries within BMX, and I feel it's like that dopamine, that rush that you can get from training. If you're making progress, trying to push yourself. Same thing with like BMXing, but the risk to reward with resistance training is way higher. Like, in BMX, you perform a trick, you don't really get much out of it. If you miss the trick, you can get really hurt like I was. So that was the real transition. Like I broke my foot, was sitting around, laying around, and it's just start randomly doing push-ups and pull-ups, and just noticing like the pull-ups becoming easier, the push-ups becoming easier, my physique changing a bit. And then that was realistically just the transitioning point. Like I continued to BMX after that, but I was hitting the gym a little, and then just hanging around with, I was a pretty good BMXer, riding with some of the pros, and then seeing them who I thought were going to be living a much more luxurious lifestyle just weren't. And at that point, I just kind of transitioned 100% to like, my goal was like, I'm going to be a bodybuilder, a drug-free bodybuilder. I think I made that decision, and here we are 15 plus years later.
But that you made, so respect on the drug-free side, because obviously this is kind of like one of those industries that's like very, very sporadic when it comes to testosterone, TRT, and all types of things that I don't even know how to pronounce, right?
Right.
But what made you decide, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go the natty route, right? Natty. Natural.
Okay. Great question, man. I appreciate it. And why? So I had some influences in my life, like a cousin of mine, Oliver, who was an NPC competitor. It's like the coolest dude, but he was like in his realm, like off from competing, was like just openly speaking to us because we thought he was so cool and jacked. He's like, guys, I'm just gonna let you know, like real deal, like don't do steroids. And this is 15 years ago, right? So we talked about testosterone now. We know that there is a place for it when it's being medically prescribed and it's being looked after by a professional. This kind of stuff wasn't available to us at the time. Steroids were like completely illegal, hard to get. And the nightmares of me seeing it personally in high school were like some of these football players who like do cycles and only get side effects. Like literally like 17, 18-year-old guys went from like, not that not having hair is that important, but that when you're young, just seeing like the kids completely go bald after like a cycle, like it makes you wonder and think. And so within that, the influence of my cousin and just seeing it around me, and also it's illegal, it's expensive. I grew up in Patterson. My parents are first generation immigrants, and like they work really hard, and they still work really hard for everything. And like that kind of like that extra income for drugs, this wasn't in the cards. And natural bodybuilding is a real thing. So at that point, just through the, luckily at the time, even though 15 years ago, the internet was still available, understanding that natural bodybuilding is a thing. And it also made my drive for educational nutrition to be pursued. So it was all these things. Like we knew this from the basics. Any bodybuilder you talk or read about is how important nutrition is. And like the science behind it just kind of like was so interesting to me. So that's really why I started to do this naturally, because it was a thing. And I think it's really cool that everything you accomplish when you're natty is literally you. That's it. It's nothing else. No, where'd you get your steroids from? How much are you taking? Do you have the genetic ability to be on steroids? Because that's the one thing too, is like some people need a lot of steroids and other people just don't, but that's, you just never know. Like there's just such a genetic predisposition to how these things interact. And that's just something we didn't have access to or understand realistically when I started. So it's illegal, it's expensive, it's dangerous, and natural bodybuilding is a real thing. And I thought that was really cool when I saw some of these people I looked up to at the time who were like, look phenomenal, but they looked healthy, you know what I mean? And it was a real thing. And I was like really impressed on that. Like it's just realistically like hard work and dedication.
Yeah. And I think that probably also has some ties to the way your parents are.
For sure.
Right? So that's an influence. No?
Yeah, like they're still working hard, dude. You know, every day my parents still work full time. Like it's so. Yeah.
So your parents came from where?
My parents are Yugoslavian, formerly known as Yugoslavia. They're Serbian. My dad came here, not to get into politics, like came here legally on a work visa. So if it wasn't for my dad being awesome at building furniture out of wood, I wouldn't be here. Like,
carpenter.
Humble. Whatever it's properly called, but like, the company was like, hey, so you're really good at what you do. You want to go to America and build chairs and tables over there? He's like, at the time there was like some political wars going on in the area, and you know, it was actually like an opportunity to kind of flee, and he took that advantage and was like, came here first for a bit, and then my mom came over with my sister. Then next thing you know, I was born in Paterson, New Jersey, and that's it, bro. So
nice. What does the American dream mean to you?
So that's changed a lot as I've lived life, hung around people, wealthy, poor, you know, middle class. Honestly, the American dream to me is, you know, the ability to do what you want. Like it's not governmentally, like no communism. So that you have the choice to, do you want to be a millionaire? Do you want to be like you? It's really up to you and how you want to go about it. But for me, like, honestly, if I could, not to sound lazy, like I just want to chill. Like I don't want to be worried about like if someone gets sick, like have enough money to take care, have enough money to eat. But there was a point in time where, you know, even like Miami, you see like the buku rich bros roll up with the Bugattis, and you're like, I kind of lost its luster. Like I'm not like, yeah, I feel like if I had a lot of money, like I used to really like sports cars and such, but it's like kind of lost its luster to me. So the American dream is just, you know, living a stress-free life where I have freedom of speech, you know, like all the real American amenities, like I'm safe, you know, like God bless America, our government and our army realistically keeps us safe. Like, you know, I'm not in danger every day, all day. So that's the American dream as of right now. And this may change, you know, it might change, but just like being able to live stress-free and you know, stress-free and free.
And stress-free and free. And another reason why I asked that one is because you're in Miami. You've been in Miami for the past 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And we were just talking about a lot of people really would like to be here. Not everybody has even visited here, right? Yeah. So what is it like living in Miami from your perspective, coming from New Jersey, and now you're coaching here? What is life like?
It's paradise. So I think that is really a big part of like the quality of life. I think the overall quality of life demographically, like where we are in this chunk of earth, is amazing because we have the beautiful weather, you know, and the fact that it is Miami. We have a lot of like social things that we can do. Like Formula One is here. Like everything is kind of here. Like it's always something. If you're like, you're never really bored. Like you can do something any day of the week if you wanted to. It's probably, I mean, Miami is the best place in America. Like, you know, in my opinion, I think so. Yeah. With that transition, like, yeah, I miss like some of my childhood friends and such in New Jersey, but they all love to come down here anyways because it's Miami, right? Like this is where people come to vacation. And
100%.
so within that, that transition, like I don't miss the cold. I don't miss much of New York, New Jersey, minus my family. And, with this remote nutrition consulting, this is something I did prior to the pandemic. And the pandemic is why we're here, where I originally came here because the gyms opened up first south. So this is really why we're here. But as a whole, it's paradise. Weather's great. You get a lot of mixture of people here. The culture is amazing. So it's like you have so many different ethnicities nearby. So it's like you go to the grocery store, you can easily find a variety of different cultural foods. And like you went to a grocery store in New Jersey, you're not going to find dulce de leche in every aisle, or like other awesome, Brazilian, Colombian delicacies, if you would, or even like Italian, European things. Like you're not going to, it's just tricky. But so here, like that melting pot of ethnicity is really cool. And I know I'm going into a tangent with what I think about Miami, but Miami is great.
Does that translate into the people that you coach?
Interesting. It's funny. I honestly, to this date, don't have many actual Miami clients. I don't. Most of my clientele are really still from prior to my move here, who've been with me for a while. Knock on wood. Thank you guys for continuing to trust me and everything. So I can't say, I don't know, but I do work with a variety of different cultures, like some of my Indian clients. Like I've learned about Indian cultures that I probably never would have if it wasn't for nutrition consulting and training. And but I don't think so. I don't think Miami really has.
Interesting.
Yeah. But
I'm sure that changes over time, probably.
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of different ethnicities and such, and that's like the really cool thing, because the way with my background in clinical nutrition science is like you don't want to take away things of someone's lifestyle. You want to have them. The psychological aspect of eating is like looking forward to food. And if you're enable a way to create a overall balanced diet, incorporating some of their ethnic homegrown like foods, like it's going to create a much higher chance for success. So that's the one thing with consulting with different cultures is like the pan de bonos, the Colombians, or like the paneer is like an Indian cheese, which is actually amazing, like really good. And just like so one of my Miami clients is Italian, which is not really in Miami, and I'm going to a tangent, but I remember like, all right, he was competing in prep, and it's like, all right, so pizza's pizza, right? But it's tricky because some restaurants might give you like a really big slice or use less cheese, so there's going to be some discrepancies in nutrients and calories and such. But there's, by law in America, when a restaurant has multiple locations, the FDA makes them produce nutrient data that they have to fall within these parameters for their customers and consumers to be able to see. So it's almost like a very systematic nutrition. So okay, let's go to this pizzeria because it'll be easy for you because we're in prep right now. And I remember him getting so mad and like texting me after. He's like, I never want to go back to that place. Just frozen pizza. This is not pizza. He's Italian. But I love this place. But I'm not Italian, but the pizza's good. But and I know the pizza's good. I go there with all kinds of people. But since he's like Italian, he just was so mad. I don't know, because it wasn't like a really Italian restaurant. But so it's
very picky, no?
Yeah. And so this is funny stuff, man. Like everyone, because at the end of the day, when you're consulting with someone, you become close friends. Like I become like their real life fitness pal. It's not just some app. It's like you're communicating and consulting with them. You build up a relationship. So this is funny.
Yeah, it's funny because when I went to Italy and I asked for a Hawaiian pizza, it was like the biggest disrespect.
Yeah, they were like
that. It's disrespectful. They're like, oh, he's not from here, so it's like they give you a pass. But I know how it is, man. And actually, it's funny because I go to, like, when I've been to Europe and I eat there, for some reason I could lose weight really fast, but I'm eating the same shit here and I'll just gain it. You know what I mean? So that the food here, right? Like that's a whole different topic.
Yes.
I would assume, right?
If I can say one thing, let's just go back to the law of thermodynamics. Is it like I guess when you were traveling, let's just realistically, someone like loses weight when
Yeah.
they ended up creating a hypocaloric state and they're eating. There's really only three ways you can go about eating. Is it either you're maintaining, you're gaining, or you're losing? There's those three tiers. So more or less, let's say you're really eating the exact same things and you're losing weight. You have to take into consideration other things like how many steps a day did you take? Were you still exercising over there? We can go dive into this, but at the end of the day, if you lost, it means there was a hypocaloric state and lipolysis, and you're losing fat, like you're losing weight.
Those who don't know, hypocaloric,
Low calorie deficit.
Calorie deficit.
Eating less calories than your body needs, and your body's going to need energy. Like body fat really is just like battery packs all over your body. So if you're eating less food, no matter how you slice and dice it, if you're a vegan, a faster, or a carnivore, or a keto, and things, you lost weight because you did keto or you did paleo, you ate less calories than you were burning, and you created a hypocaloric state, a calorie deficit, and you lost weight. It's realistically any way you can do it. And again, what it comes down to is the psychological aspect. If you like the nonchalant little nutrition rules that put you in the parameters that create a calorie deficit, or you're like myself, where you like to be very, rigid but flexible in the sense where I eat a variety of foods, but I'm rigid within my recipes to make sure I fall within the metabolic nutritional parameters for myself. So back to, again, I'm going into a tangent. Eating European food versus American food there's probably other things to consider, like maybe you weren't driving around because you're on vacation. You walked everywhere. You didn't really take into consideration that maybe you exercise a little bit more or a little, things like that. We can't say, but what we could say scientifically is if you were eating in Europe and you felt you lost weight, you ate less calories. Like that's simple. You can't argue science. It's a law, and a lot of times it's very common for people to say like the ingredients in European foods are banned in America and so on. But a lot of times it's just the way they're labeled. It's our nutrition labels are different than theirs. But if you were to pull up a scientific nutrition label for a banana, and people be like, "Oh, I don't eat chemicals." We're all chemicals. You're a chemical. I'm a chemical. Everything is a chemical. If you got people start to dig deeper, is think like biology in high school, atoms and elements, because that's realistically what everything is. We're all chemical, and the chemical makeup that makes everything. And yes, toxicity from chemical isn't just the chemical, like the lethal injection. If you're thinking about kill someone, is the biggest contributor to it is like something that's found in blueberries. But it's not that blueberries are poisonous. It's the dose of the chemical concentration that produces the poison. You know what I mean?
I've never heard that one before.
On the blue, I can share like references like later on. At some point, I'm not going to go open up a notebook right now and pull up,
it's very interesting,
medical literature to references to my claims. But yeah, this is, if you think about it at that level, really digging into the science of it, we're all chemicals. And it's not the chemical, it's the dose that makes the poison.
Got it. What about when people say, eating things that when you start reading them, you can't even pronounce? That's when it's a red flag, so to speak, right?
That's really cool you say that, but those things are naturally occurring in, like I would say, like spinach. If you say, like, so if you flip over a bag of spinach that you find in the grocery store, it's going to say ingredients, spinach, but that's a nutrient consumer label. It's not a scientific label. So what actually is chemically inside of what makes that actual element of spinach, there's going to be things in there I can't pronounce. Realistically, like if we were to go under a microscope and look at the things that make up a spinach or a banana, organic, these things are naturally occurring, like food coloring, right? Like yellow 5 or something. People like to be like, oh, no food coloring.
Right. Well,
those colors are naturally occurring in earth and around and plants, but when they are what's the word, like synthesized into your, I don't know, snack, it's a big deal. But when you eat it naturally occurring, no one discusses it. But realistically, it's the same chemical compound. You know what I mean?
So is there something that when you say so what I've heard is, if you can't pronounce is a red flag, and there's a lot of shit you can't pronounce in a lot of these labels. What would you say is a red flag then? If at any at all, or as long as it's in like a small dosage, it doesn't matter.
I would say a red flag is if you're going to eat something and it's got 300 calories and less than 5 grams of protein and no fiber. So for every calorie you consume, I would look at the density. Like, this is just at the surface level. So I'm not worried about. But realistically, there's many things to take into consideration when it comes into nutrition. But a red flag would be like, hey, I don't know, a Krispy Kreme donut. It's a red flag because it's like we're looking at 400, 500 calories, 2 grams of very low quality protein, and like 0 fiber. That's a red flag. And now you're talking about the chemical preservatives and such. But when it comes to, and I don't want to offend anybody, and this might come off in a way that might, upset some, but we really don't. People aren't dying because of one ingredient in food. Like, yes, there's some instances where things come off the shelf because of the production and maybe higher levels of contaminants of like arsenic may have been present, and it's dangerous and it comes off the shelves. All right. But realistically,
it's like you're talking about recalled
items, right? Okay, like red flags. Like those are real red flags.
Right.
Eating things that make you sick, like something that got moldy and you just didn't see it, like internally, like, something like that. But realistically, the red flags are in the misjudgment of the total diet in a sense. But really what I was trying to get at is people aren't dying. Like we would, if there was really ingredients in the like heavily processed foods, like a Twinkie or something, these things are selling like crazy. We would hear about Twinkie deaths.
Right.
What deaths do you hear about from food? Like legit. Like, someone could be like, oh yeah, well he died from cancer and his diet consisted of bacon, cold cuts. He was just too busy, never ate. Let's just say how hypothetical talk.
Hypothetically, yeah.
But realistically, you don't hear about someone like having one slice of bacon and dying, or the nitrates. Like, you just don't hear about it. It's just not happening. It's the cumulative disposition to disease that someone might have genetically predisposition to something that we just never knew about. And through nutrition and lifestyle, these cancerous cells, if you will, or other ailments are being fed, but we just don't have enough to say like this is a red flag. Like I don't look at food that way. I think all food is good. All food is good. It's the overconsumption of nutrient-less foods that end up having you gain an excess amount of subcutaneous and visceral body fat, and that's the real problem, realistically.
Right. So anything that has high calorie, low nutrient, we want to try to minimize as much as possible.
And for on the table, let's talk about the general population, like the sedentary office workers.
Yeah.
But now the caveat to that would be like the 16-year-old Steve football player, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing those 2-a-day practices, you're lifting weights, then you're still getting out at, getting jiggy with some friends. How much energy is Steve at 15 years old does he need to play football, practice, live a lifestyle with friends, So now take into consideration that those foods, the Krispy Kreme, might actually be good for that athlete because of the amount of energy that needs to be consumed to replenish the athlete's needs to perform, but the appetite. So if like you're telling 15-year-old Steve, like, okay, hey, you got to eat clean, chicken and broccoli. All right. But Steve now needs 7,000 calories because it's summer and they're doing 2-a-day practices. He's lifting weights. He needs to put on muscle. trying to eat 7,000 calories of chicken and broccoli.
Yeah,
You can't. It's
Yeah.
bro. The amount of volume satiating your stomach isn't going to allow you to consume those calories. So this is where the Krispy Kreme donut might come into play, because okay, you're going to eat the amount of fibers. Now the rule of thumb would be for every 1,000 calories someone consumes, they should have about 15 grams of fiber from both sources. But now let's say, okay, your meal has the adequate fiber for the calories you're consuming, but you need to eat those 3,000 extra calories of just straight energy, but you don't have the appetite because of your balanced diet has those fibrous foods, which are super satiating, and like the high quality proteins, which are low in saturated fat, because you want to monitor these things. You just don't have the appetite for those 2,000 calories, but you need that fuel to train, to be an athlete. Krispy Kreme donut's your best friend. So the red flags, I was about to say, in the wind, the wind is different for each person.
Right.
You know, there's many things to take into consideration. So those little rules are kind of silly.
So when you're training, when you get somebody into your training regimen, you get a client, what type of questions are you going through with them? Like a lifestyle, you're trying to find out what their goals are, like,
yes,
because I'm assuming each person is their own universe, right?
For sure. Like that's how do we go about making the program? Like I'm not gonna, you come on board with me, I'm not some BS coach that's just gonna send you some PDF like, here's my diet,
Right.
here's my workout program. Like we gotta take into consideration so many things. So within that realm, it's like, okay, what's your lifestyle been like the past 5 years? Like, have you been gaining weight? Have you been losing weight? What have you actually been doing? What have you done that's worked for you? You know, like, so everyone like, you know, hey, I did a keto for a while and I lost some weight, but then I stopped doing it. Why'd you stop? Because you can't adhere to this because it doesn't fit your lifestyle. So the things that I ask traditionally is like, you know, general, like, you know, age, height, weight, any medicines, predispositions to limitations to exercise injuries and such, knowing how we can go about that. But now it's like getting into the lifestyle, like, okay, what do you do for a living? How do you typically eat? Like you don't need to do 8 meals a day or 2 meals a day. Like there is no real rule on this. You know, we're talking about like just getting those essential nutrients in and staying within a balanced nutrient guidelines to fuel your body, not overconsume energy, calories, and doing this in a way that you can sustain it, right? Because if I put someone on some, you know, crazy bodybuilding textbook diet, like broccoli and chicken and such, like they lose out on the psychological aspect of enjoying food. So the questions that I ask are realistically like work. Like someone's like, oh, no, I'm very flexible. All right, great. Can you actually like sit and cook breakfast and lunch and dinner? That's fantastic. Many people can't. You know, many people are like, dude, I wake up, it's like a rat race from when I go, getting my kids ready for school, dropping them off from school, going here, and then I'm at the office, and it's just like, this doesn't stop. And like, okay, this person can maybe hire a meal prep company, but they might not like it. Or there's so many things to take into consideration. So it's like literally schedule, lifestyle, work, career, responsibilities. But for the most part, like let's just take like the hypothetical Mrs. Jones, who's like a mother, single mother, let's just say, and is just trying to lose a little bit of weight to feel good, look good, look good, feel good. And her schedule is just that, like single mom, gotta drop the kids off at school, gotta be, at her own office. So it's like something to take into consideration is protein. Is the word protein means most important. That's its Greek terminology is ever standing. It means the most important. It's the most important nutrient. Your body cannot create it. You need to consume protein. So protein intake is somewhat time sensitive in a sense. If you're going for long periods of time without protein, your body's going to have something called muscle protein breakdown because it needs those amino acids for energy. Now, protein is never really a big source of energy of everything you're doing throughout the day, but you're always burning a little bit of energy from protein. So how do we get Mrs. Jones to start her day after sleeping all night and not consuming any protein? Many hours have gone by. At this point, there's no protein in her bloodstream and her body's utilizing stored amino acids for energy, which are muscle tissue, right? So we got to think about lifestyle. Like how can I get Mrs. Jones to enjoy her first protein intake? And is it going to be something where she's like, I really don't even have time to enjoy it because I'm so busy in the morning? Okay, a protein shake will do. Like that's the kind of thing you got to take into consideration. Like when you look to someone for what they're eating, this is like the three things that you want to have happen is you want them to curb their hunger. The diet is really balancing your hunger at all times. And diet really, the word means dieta is lifestyle. So your lifestyle of not feeling hungry while getting the most important nutrient, protein. It's really like what a diet comes down to if we're to look at the terms of what it means. So everyone's different. And, historically, I'll just use it like a very common thing is like somebody will utilize so many calories on a very not essential intake of nutrients for breakfast. Like the typical American might be something like a bagel, a coffee, and they're like 1,000 calories in for the day and maybe had like 10 grams of protein and they're like Frappuccino float latte,
Right.
you know what I mean? So like Mrs. Jones' actual metabolic needs are like 1,500 calories a day. And prior to me, she was having 1,000 calories, no protein for breakfast. No wonder why she's gaining weight, because now lunch comes around, she's at the office and she's so busy. She's
Right.
had nothing to eat. She's picking on whatever like is in the office cafeteria. And like, this is where things come out. It's like the awareness,
Yeah.
creating awareness to what people are eating and how to make it fit within their lifestyle.
Yeah, and the mentality at that point is like, oh, I only had a bagel and coffee for breakfast, so I didn't have nothing, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, right.
So that's exactly it, bro. And that's a really big thing. Is this when you put it into perspective, and people be like, "Well, I eat good." All right, an avocado would be considered a good food, but at the end of the day, an avocado could potentially be 300 calories, and you got to take into consideration how does that fit within those metabolic needs for that person. So here's like the budget of metabolic calorie needs, and how do we get within this budget and consume enough adequate protein for the person's age and lean body tissue, and then making sure they're eating adequate fats, because we do need fats. Fats are essential, but falling within those parameters. And then like the flexible nutrient would be carbohydrates, but fiber would be considered an essential nutrient, and fiber is a carbohydrate. So how do we fall within these parameters, create awareness, and create a way that they can look forward to what they're eating and create adherence to do this for a long period of time? Because people will be like, oh, I want to get beach ready. All right, so we put them on a beach ready diet, but then what after? Where's the after diet? It's lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then this one thing is people mindset. There's no oh man, let me gather my thought for a moment here. There's no choice to be on a diet. No matter what, you're always on a diet because you have to eat, just like you have to make money, right? And if you're not eating, you're not living. So there is no choice. We're always on a diet. A diet shouldn't be looked at as something like something you do for a competition for bodybuilding or to get ready for the wedding or something. It needs to be a lifestyle within, like, okay, how do I create this mindset for that person? Like, get them to understand that there is no diet. There's no choice. We're always on a diet.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more you embrace that lifestyle, the better it is for your the product is just so much better, right? Because you're not constantly thinking about, oh, I'm in a diet, oh, I'm in a diet. So it's almost like it's painful almost if you could remove that, right? Or,
yes. And that's again for my clinical approach to the lifestyle of, again, dieting is lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not here to discuss what other people's approaches are. I know there's a lot of fantastic nutritionists out there that are going to help people, but I'm just discussing what we clinically look at: the word diet, what it means, and what it means to fuel someone to be within what the body needs, right? We need food and we need protein. It would be advantageous to prescribe or focus on fibers, because we know how good and important they are as of right now with the new research that's being conducted and just getting better with like the microbiome. And it seems like fiber plays a huge role within that overall gut health, but gut health realistically is still very new. Like there's people who've been like even the past 10 years have just what they're doing is researching gut microbiome, and what they know of is just literally not that much. But we know that there is microbiome, and the more of it that we have, the better off our gut seems to do with digesting our nutrients and like our immune system seems to be really in tune with our gut. So what does that come down to? Things we already knew, like fibers are really important for our microbiome, and fibers are vegetables and fruits. Like vegetables and fruits are huge, but there's a lot of like, I don't know, bad nutrition advice out there. Like, I forget his name. Dr. fucking Seidman or something. Anyways, like some of these doctors that have no background in nutrition who are like, a doctor goes to school for whatever their craft is. A nutrition goes to school for nutrition. They're a doctor in the field of nutrition, right? But how a lot of, physicians write books on nutrition, but they really didn't spend much time doing nutrition research. It's like a 2-week course in the whole grand scheme of things to become a doctor in like the medical field. A nutritionist is a nutritionist. So it's like some of these doctors will come up with crazy dieting suggestions and then we'll sell supplements. They're just trying to make money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like and then like some of the crazy thing is like a lot of these doctors will talk this crazy talk about like lectins and seed oils and such. But if you look at their roster of happy clients, I don't see any fucking pictures. I don't see one. I'll pull up like an Instagram later or something, but like, and line up the names to what I'm saying, but I just don't give them too much mind, because any doctor who's saying some crazy things or not aligning with what the nutrition science from around the world is saying, like there's literally nutritionists in Australia, Canada, Brazil, Europe, like Italy, who are all prescribing the same thing, like the overall balanced nutrient, calorie awareness, consume your proteins, eat adequate fiber, watch your saturated fats, and that's like the precursor for health, right? Like staying within like a healthy body fat level, not being too fat, not being too lean. Like there's like that middle ground, which seems to be where we're like our healthiest. And there's just other people who are just like preaching crazy things, and they're not really, if they were so accurate about these things, where's their super clan of followers who are just all, and I hate to use this, but realistically strong? Where's their muscular, low body fat level of crew that follows this nutrition protocol of a magical, suggestions? It just doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And I'm not, if you were to go and like you got a doctor on here, like a general physician, and you asked him like, what's the most important thing that you feel happens with like your patients that come in? Like, what's the most important thing you have to remind or prescribe to them? And he's gonna say, diet and exercise. There's before medicine, before anything else. Like you look at someone like, I got this thing, my back, my knee, my heart rate, my high blood pressure, my cholesterol, this and that. Exercise and diet. All right. So if that was like the precursor for health, and now he's saying about it, like the doctor's pretty much telling everyone like, hey, get a little leaner and get your muscle up. What did he just say to them? Motherfucking bodybuild. But now you remove the dogma for bodybuilding and like all this, like the steroids and such. And again, I'm not talking bad about steroids, and I'm not talking bad about any of this. I'm just saying, like, you remove the dogma of bodybuilding, not like the last few weeks where the person is getting to an extreme low body fat level for a competition, but the overall lifestyle of bodybuilding. What are we trying to do? Trying to lower our body fat and increase our muscle tissue. That's the same thing that doctor's telling every patient that comes into his door. Hey, diet and exercise. He just said to these people within less words, lose some fat, get your muscle up. And what does that actually say? He just told everyone to be a bodybuilder. You remove the dogma of bodybuilding and like all the craziness, it's the healthiest thing you can do. Now, muscle is an organ. It's a very important organ. Skeletal system. Without muscle tissue, your skeletal won't be there. Like now, the more muscle tissue you have as you age, the healthier you will be. All right. So realistically, like we should all be bodybuilders.
Longevity wise.
Yeah,
right.
man. The lower body fat you have, the better your body is at operating. Your heart isn't pumping blood through fat tissue that doesn't really do much. Right? Yes, we need some fat tissue. Now, the more muscle tissue you have too, the better your body is at, regulating blood glucose, also blood sodium. But realistically, like the first thing that happens is like your body, if you have like a meal that's super salty and you actually have some muscle tissue, is your body's going to try and regulate it by delivering some of this water in sodium into your musculature cell. Like it's realistically like muscle tissue is amazing at regulating a lot of health mechanisms. And like, I'm just touching the surface of it because that's not really my background, but I understand that muscle tissue is very, very important in regulating many health mechanisms. So
15 years into the fitness game.
Yes, sir.
Right? Typically it takes about 10 years, I think, to be great at something. And then from year 10 to 20, you start niching and kind of like carving out your own original recipe for everything that you do, right? What would you say is your strong suit when it comes to training? Is it physical? Is it nutrition? Or is it something specific that we haven't touched on yet?
All right. So when it comes to, let's say, like muscle tissue, I feel for the general gym population, so let's talk about a person who's been going to the gym for at least 2 years, they're probably eating enough protein. We need protein.
How much protein do you need to eat?
So it like it's 0.8 grams per like lean body mass. So that someone would say like you need per pound, but then the obese person does not need 300 grams of protein. All right, we're talking about lean tissue is where the protein needs come into play. So with that, also age, the younger you are, your body's sensitivity to protein consumption is much higher. Like the 16-year-old can probably get away with just like the little protein within that bagel, like and the cream cheese, like that 15 grams of very low quality wheat protein and cream cheese, maybe with like the little glass of, I don't know, milk or something. Like they will get an anabolic response to that little bit of protein. And as we age, your body loses, you become more like protein resistant, you lose sensitivity in your digestion, and you need to consume more. So right now, I was talking to you before about like Dr. Stuart Phillips, like one of the protein researchers, probably like the greatest of all time, if you will.
Yeah.
He would suggest, between like the ages of 20 to 30, not too more, but it's from 30 to 40, you might need a little bit more than you did when you were 20 to 30. And then 30 to 40, when you're 40 to 50, you need a little bit more than you were, like so on and so forth and so forth and so on. So as every decade, your body needs like a little bit more protein than it did the previous, but not that much, but definitely more.
You could add a percentage by rule of thumb.
So again, I'm not going to say that number because it's just not on the top of my head right now. But yes, I will say that we definitely need a little bit more. I want to say maybe like 10% more, 10% more per decade. I think again, I can get the logistics and pull up the research and forward it to you guys to share later with the people that might watch this. But I'm not consulting specifically, and I'm not whipping out like my data log to a lot of these things slip my mind. There's a lot of things to discuss. But so with that, how much we need, it comes down to lean body mass, age, and what's the goal? Like, as someone, bodybuilding, like getting real low body fat levels, you're gonna need more protein. Or is it, lean body mass and just, mild dieting to lose a little bit of body fat to feel better, trying to regulate things and, maybe not be type 2 diabetic and such, like, a moderate amount, like following the general clinical guidelines for protein, but not like bodybuilder.
0.8 per pound if, let's say, your BMI is what? So, I mean, and I'm not holding you to the
That's
fire.
specific.
I'm just trying to get an idea for at least a general rule of thumb, not really necessarily.
It's always a good idea to look around. I would say 0.8 grams of protein per body weight per again. We're not talking about the like super lean person because they might need a little bit more. We're talking about the general population, like okay, not your damn, I didn't mean like that. I didn't mean, you're not general.
Not
You're
at
not
all,
general,
man.
right? You're not general,
Don't
but
worry
like
about it.
you're not like super crazy shredded,
Right,
and you're
right,
not
of course.
obese. You know,
Right,
you're
right,
a
right.
healthy man. You'd probably get away with that 0.8. You just had you just told me you were 40. So
40 years old.
So
Yeah, man.
around that 0.8 to 1 gram per body weight would probably be a
Right.
perfect spot for you.
Maybe in a few years, 0.9 or something like that.
Yeah,
Kind of
potentially.
something like that.
Yeah. But also, you know, and this is really digging deep into the protein metabolism science. You know, when you tell someone their protein intake, they don't consider the mixed meal protein. They're just looking at like the meats and like the egg and the cheese or the whey protein. They're not looking at like the potato or the rice or the vegetables. Now, all these things have protein in them as well. So let's take into consideration, let's say like someone, you know, like they love a sandwich, let's just say. Now, a sandwich typically, now nothing wrong with wheat. I love pizza, but the wheat amino acid profile of protein is very low. A lot of it gets lost in the breakdown of like the gluten and such. So if we were to look at it, if someone can just, before realistically saying like, oh, you need more protein, maybe looking around at how to get higher quality protein in that mixed meal. Really crazy thing is like potatoes. The little bit of protein that's in a potato, like, you know, let's say like a medium-sized potato might have like 2 grams of protein, not much.
Boiled potato, right?
Yeah,
A boiled potato.
Boiled white potato, sweet
Yeah.
potato, any potato.
Yeah.
Those 2 grams of protein would be amino acid dense equivalent to 2 grams of like chicken. The amino acid profile of protein in potato and corn is like fantastic. Rice protein, not so good. And it's still okay, but it's not like amino acid, high leucine rich that when it's being digested and assimilated now in your bloodstream, you're going to get a hormonal response to elevate protein synthesis. It would be much higher if like you were to look at the overall mixed diet. If like, you know, someone would be like, hey, you might want to think about eating more potatoes instead of rice. And one other thing is, the thing really cool about potatoes is really cool research that was done is potatoes are super satiating. Remember, like you want a diet is controlling that appetite, and potatoes might be better at like subsiding appetite. And the little bit of protein in them is very high quality.
You were talking about protein. If you don't consume a certain amount of protein, your body starts breaking down your own muscle. What if you're keto diet, right? So you wait, you fast and you're going into keto, let's say.
Oh, my apologies. So keto is just like when carbohydrates aren't present and your body's using amino acids and to convert them into glycogen in a sense.
I actually made a mistake. I didn't mean to say
fasting.
Fasting is where I was getting at.
So
my bad.
That's what,
fasting for a long time after sleeping for 8 hours and then you fast.
So in a recent study where they looked at like huge bouts of protein per meal. So like, it's like you consume protein, it gets into your bloodstream and it's digesting, and like your body's blood levels kind of go back down to baseline. And then there's like that fasted state where they go below baseline, was where it's just kind of where your body starts to utilize amino acids for like a little bit of protein energy. So per hour of activity, it's like your body's always using like 5% of that total energy from protein. But me and you sitting down right now just chatting, we're probably not burning many calories, like 70 calories, maybe a little more, a little less, depending on things. I'm a fidgeter, so you see like all this.
So you're burning 100 of
them. Right. And so as that energy consumption, it kind of comes up, like you just not the protein breakdown is not as drastic as you would think. So fasting, if it fits into that person's general lifestyle, like, and it helps them nonchalantly fall into the parameters of a time window to eat calories and fall within those guidelines where they're not gaining weight or they're not losing weight, they're kind of maintaining a healthy body fat, it's great. But yeah, if you were to really think about, you know, who are we talking about here? Like the elite level person, athlete trying to maximize every ounce of muscle tissue, fasting I wouldn't suggest it, you know, but some people, it works well for them appetite wise. Again, there's a lot of like placebo effects, if you will. Like, how does the individual just focus on things, like the less they think about food, like, okay, I'm fasting. I just know for hours on end I'm not gonna be eating. It's off their mind, and they don't even think about it. There's a lot of things to take into consideration, but what we do know of right now of fasting, it doesn't seem to be the most advantageous place when it comes to cultivating as much lean muscle tissue as possible.
If I wanted to just drink protein shakes all day, is that something? Is a protein shake something that should be kind of looked upon as like last resort, or it's something that you could actually sustain on? Because, like, for example, like I have protein shakes that'll say 32 grams of protein and very low carbs, 1 gram of sugar, right? That type of thing. Is because on the label it seems like, oh shit, if I just drink this all day, I'll I'm getting shredded. Is that something that is true or no?
So many things to take into consideration. The protein itself. And before I go into a tangent, if it's something like we're talking about high quality whey protein, all right, let's just say we'll keep it at that. If you do that like 5 times a day, then maybe like, you might only consume like 1,000 calories. So that's the first thing. Is if that's really all you just did, was like, you'd probably be way under consuming calories, and your body doesn't know these things. It just notices a huge drastic loss of energy, and it starts to kind of utilize and preserve energy, and you will notice things happening. So it's not a good idea just because it's not creating enough essential energy for your body to do things well. It might last a little bit, but the sustainability is just not there. The high protein quality is there, but you're missing out on so many other minerals and vitamins and things that you might not be getting unless you're like supplementing. Like if you really were just like, I'm going to take a supplement for this, supplement for that, I'm just going to drink protein shakes all day. But if you took into consideration those protein shakes had like peanut butter or something, and like you had some carbohydrates, and like you were throwing in some like, fibrous fruits and like spinach and things, and you actually created a formula where you ate, the adequate calories you need, you consumed enough fats, and everything, yeah, why not? But the thing that you'll lose out on is, we know that right now, that how important like chewing, like literally chewing food, the mechanisms it has behind the satiation, like we talked about sustainability through protein shakes. If you're just liquid feeding all day, you're missing out on that whole chewing aspect and like the peristalsis of moving foods along into your digestive tract and things. Your appetite will probably be higher. Now, there's a lot of things to take into consideration, like individuals in the individual aspect of it, but on the surface of what the clinical research would suggest, it wouldn't be a good idea. Maybe occasionally, like a busy back-to-back day where you're like, meeting to meeting to meeting, and then you need to, like, it's like your day of training because the next day is like a family thing, and you won't be able to train. Sure, it could be an advantageous technique to create a way to get those nutrients in. If you're busy all day, you can't sit down and fork a meal down. Like, at the end of the day, like if you think about it, it could be very advantageous to like the 15-year-old Steve football player who just doesn't have the appetite. A liquid protein shake with peanut butter and such, you can boom, drink 1,000 calories, no problem, bat your eyes. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, another problem with the general population is overconsumption of liquid calories. Is like they just drink, too many foods that don't satiate anything. There's no process of chewing in satiety. So yeah, there's many things to take into consideration. Definitely don't suggest it. I think there realistically isn't the maximum protein shake threshold, but thinking about like the grand scheme of nutrients, it could be a great way for you to get protein in, but just still missing out on like the overall needs of nutrient. Yeah. But what's the word? The convenience. A protein shake is super convenient. Like for myself, like I always have for a long time a protein shake at the end of my training, not just because I got done with my training. It's because it's been hours since my previous meal for myself. Like as I've seen and research would suggest, like there's some people that can eat and go right into a hardcore training session. Not me. Just like the food sitting in my stomach again, because when I eat, I try to have fiber. adequate calories and all these things. It's going to be like in my gastronomical, like just sitting in my stomach. Now I'm over here grinding out a set and I got this food in my stomach. It's kind of uncomfortable. So I allow for enough digestive time from meal to training. And then by the time I'm done training, it'll been about 5 hours or so, maybe 6 from that meal. I was like, dude, I'm actually, there's some research that suggests that activity suppresses appetite, but it's not that actually might be the case for me. So like right after I got done training, I'm not gonna just want to sit down and like carve a steak and like eat. Like that's just not. I'm still revved up, like just blood flowing. The sit down eat doesn't really fit well for me, and also the convenience of just slamming a protein shake close to the proximity of the recent training this fits my lifestyle. And by the time I get home or whatever I have to do at that time, the digestiveness of the shake, time goes by, so busy, things are happening. It's like hours have gone by. Now my calorie content for the day is a more balanced place. So now that I'm finally able to sit down and have a meal, like I might have something that I can really enjoy. Yes. So a protein shake does have its place. No, that sure wasn't really a specific answer to what you were saying, but it can be a great thing. And there's like, depending on the manufacturer of the protein, I'll say this, like there's a company called Labdoor who I like, and what they do is they take products off the shelves, and like the way the supplement industry is, protein industry is, like you don't need to have your stuff FDA regulated to become a company and put your stuff on the shelf. You just need to fall into some parameters and be on the shelf. And it's not until like things are happening, a red flag comes up, that the FDA is like, hey, let's look into this company and check their stuff and check that ingredients meet the nutrition label. In America, you just need to fall within 20% of those numbers on the back for protein and such. And company Labdoor, what they do is they take products off the shelf and they actually test it, and then they post like, hey, this is what we actually found in the product and corresponding to the nutrition label. And I've been using Labdoor for, I want to say 10 years now. And when I first started using it, or referencing it, not using it, like referencing it, a lot of big name manufacturers were on there, and it's like the Muscle Techs and the, I don't want to name drop, but a lot of the big name companies were like really low quality products.
Right.
And so that's the one thing, like, is the manufacturer utilizing, is it actually high quality proteins, or is it like amino acid spiking, which is actually a real thing where they use like glycine and things to help actually make it seem like it has more protein than it does. And that's something to consider. But quality of the protein manufacturer and the way you're utilizing it, protein is a great. I've been using protein shakes since the beginning. Like,
how long after the training session do you need to get that protein in? Is it really that 20 minute window, I think is what I typically hear,
so
to bring it in?
The best to objectively answer that, based off of what we know of the past 10 years, where the research has gotten even more specific to this, not just protein metabolism, like the past 10 years of resistance training, protein intake, this is actually a real thing. It doesn't seem to be as important as you would assume.
Mm-hmm.
It's more important is how long ago was your other protein bout. So let's say you train, like I talked about how I have, like, let's just say breakfast is 8, and then I'll train at like, well, let's say 10:30 or so. The time from 8 o'clock till from breakfast or that meal, how many hours have gone by is realistically how long you should consider to have protein again. It's not so much, protein intake isn't really based around activity as much as it's based around the previous time you consume protein.
Got it. And then past a certain time, they always say, like, if you could stick your body to the circadian rhythm and everything is on point, then it's always better, and you shouldn't eat at least 2 hours before bedtime. To me, it seems like it should be a little less than that, but I don't know, 100%. What is there, like, if you go to sleep like at 10 or 11, what time?
Myself, if I'm going to sleep at 11, my last meal is probably going to be like 10:45.
last, you get it
last minute, dude.
Really?
And I was why I do this and why other like I can reference a lot of protein research and so I would say like this: think Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah,
you
of
know,
course.
you eat epic meal. How many people take a nap?
I thought it was a turkey. The turkey.
It is a
right?
combination of the
Yeah,
turkey,
yeah.
but more or less just the volume of food. Everyone's like,
Yes,
it's like,
yes.
it's Thanksgiving, I'm here, family.
Of course.
Another serving, another serving. So your stomach is like really saturated. You got that feel good. You're like,
Yep.
so it's easier to go to bed full than it is to go to bed hungry. All right. So that's why realistically I try to eat closer to bed. And also I know it's going to be a prolonged period of time without consuming protein. So for myself, that's how I go about it. Now, if you're someone who has digestive sensitivities, like a real acid reflux thing, you might want to consider maybe not, or eating a way that doesn't interfere with those symptoms that you do have.
Yeah.
But realistically, that's I've when I work with my clients and they kind of graduate into it, and the consulting's not so comprehensive, and it's more or less like I'm just monitoring what they're doing via app and monitoring what they're eating, and they've learned how to make their own recipes and such. I always try to explain to them that I can say like they have the budget for, let's just say 1,000 calories a day. And that's obviously super low, but I'm just making the numbers easy for this conversation. It's much easier to be Steve and it's 10 p.m. and you have 800 calories left in your 1,000 calorie budget because everything throughout the day was like, it's so busy, didn't have time to really eat. It was a protein shake and a banana, and then like a grilled chicken sandwich or a grilled chicken salad of sorts with like an avocado. It's like some fibrous, essential nutrients. Like that's why I say like during the time when you're busy and you really can't sit down and enjoy food, don't have that dense Krispy Kreme. Focus on just getting the nutrients in, because it's much easier when it's 10 p.m. and you have 800 calories left to eat. Like, oh man, I have to eat all this food. What am I going to do? Have some ice cream, have some protein, have some fibers, but then have some ice cream. Then it is where it's the other way around. It's like, oh man, I had that lunch day and I ate more than I wanted to, but I still know I'm within my range, my range. I apologize. And it's like now 10 p.m. you have like 200 calories left, but you're actually hungry. But you have this nutrient goal and these physique goals. And it's like, what's easier? Now you got to like look around and be like, I got to make a cauliflower egg white omelet. And now I'm finally at home and I have time to sit down and eat. And this is what I'm going to eat. This basic, boring omelet to fall within those nutrient parameters. Right. There's many things to consider. There's many things to consider when it comes to how to go about eating for each individual. But realistically, keeping the essential nutrients, your protein and your fibers, as a front runners in your every decision that you make when it comes to eating. And then, not just being like a snacker, like, allow enough time for the digestive movement to take place. Every time you eat, allow for like all those nutrients to be present. Give your body everything it needs every time you eat. Like, even if you're gonna have that Krispy Kreme, have the proteins and the fibers around. Have a Greek yogurt, some whey protein or something. Like mix it up, make it part, or make it the Krispy Kreme at the end of like your, shrimp salad, whatever. There's many ways to go about it, but when you look at into the meal, just every time you eat is an opportunity to give your body what it needs. And then it's very easy to have 30% of your total diet come from things that don't really necessarily provide nutrient dense backbone to your food, like the Krispy Kreme donut.
Yeah, just a supplement, right?
Yeah, just to get like the calories in and have some enjoyment with your food. Because if everything you eat is always like rigid, just chicken and broccoli, like you're gonna break. Or you're missing out on the quality of life. Like they're telling me, I mean, I'm a foodie. Like you bite into something like, oh man, that's good. Like, and then the more like the psychological aspect of, you restricting, like, no, I'm not gonna have it. It seems like there's like that binge effect. And then I'm just working on with people for 15 years plus now. I've had people like open up and tell me like how I've helped them break the cycle of binge eating. And that's realistically like the super detrimental to your health, because let's just say, like, we're all human. Like, come on, even me. Like, you have a binge. The next day you wake up and like, tell me your bowel movement isn't rough. Like, you're just not going to the bathroom right. You're like a little gassier than normal. You have you just don't feel like yourself. You're like guilty. Like the binge eating aspect is way more detrimental than like anything really, in the sense of like under eating protein one day, or over consuming calories a little bit, or eating too many saturated fats, not enough fiber, like in all the grand scheme of nutrient things that you can do. I think binge eating and like just mindlessly like chomping on food is just like super detrimental, because it's like amounts of the nutrients in your bloodstream, your body's trying to regulate the glucose. I'm sorry, the glucose and the glycogen. There's just so many things potentially. Super high amounts of sodium intake. There's many things that can really just throw you off for like the next days, if you will. So.
Yeah, very interesting and very informative. Like, you actually give me hope, because I'm like, if you could eat at night, right? That's something that's very unorthodox. You don't hear a lot of saying, like, usually like, 2 hours before you shouldn't even touch a meal, kind of thing, which is really interesting. What it tells me is that everybody's got their own individual system that they got to get in tune with first, and then eventually kind of
correct
go from there.
That's well said. How I can't give advice unless the more I know about an individual, the better. The way I'd give advice, if I was you, what I would do, what I know about what you're doing, how you are going about it, how you respond to foods, what I know, what I would do is how I would suggest, like what I would do if I was you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And touching on the unorthodox, one of the things that I've actually wanted to talk to you about, because this is what, I've seen you obviously very consistent in the gym, like super consistent always, respect, by the way. The is the way that you train. You get very creative with your training. And I think very, very, very hyper focused. I've even seen you wear the mouthpiece. Like,
yeah.
Is it because you get all into it to the point where you actually need that, or you just need to like, can you tell me a little bit about your training techniques?
All right. So I would love to. So you had mentioned like some of my setups, and I'll explain. Like, I favor using machines for training because it allows for a much more consistent. They talk about consistency, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot less things to worry about within your technique. So let's say comparing a barbell squat versus a leg press, right? A barbell squat, your body's moving in a free plane of motion. There's no tracks for you to guide on, right? But my goal with like a leg press or a squat is quadriceps, glutes, adductors, and how I can really just hammer out the tension on this target muscle. Now, with a barbell squat, you have a barbell, you got to unrack it. You got to step back and you got to get your feet in the right place, right? Now, as you advance in your training, that load on your back goes higher, right? You got to keep getting better. You got to continuously, progressively overload the muscles. There's a lot of things that can go wrong setting up to train your quadriceps and your glutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the barbell squat, you have to take all these things into consideration, and then to train really hard, like that near death where you're saying body move and you're like trying to get that last rep. You got this bar on your back, then you got to re-rack it. A leg press, I literally just sit down in a place, same thing, open up a lever, and I'm in. Now my back is supported, my hips aren't moving in and out. Like you're just super locked in, because your body's going to favor the least path of resistance. So as you know, your technique is on point with the squat, right? And you got your torso upright and you're coming down and your knees are slightly over toes to keep your torso upright to really get a good stimulus on your quads. As you fatigue, your glutes are very strong. They're going to want to come in. Your glutes are going to want to shoot out, and your body's going to want to lean to utilize the muscles in your glutes. But my goal is what I'm trying to accomplish. I want quads. I want quads when I leg press. I want that to be the primary driver. So in the leg press, or a variant to squat variant machine that you'll find at Elevation, is it's going to keep your body in a more advantageous biasing position for the muscles you're trying to train. And even then, a lot of the equipment for myself, like I'm taking into this, I told you before, the skeletal system has a huge role in how your body moves
Yeah.
and things,
And
right?
the pivots and leverages and
You
stuff like
got
that.
it, bro. So a lot of the equipment isn't really designed so much for each individual. Like, I'm not that tall. I'm not that short. My limbs are not in proportion to like my height. Like I've got a long femur and a long tibia, but like my torso lengths come into play. So for me to get a really good position on the leg press where I can get like an Olympic style squat where like I can get my torso slightly leaned in, I make some adjustments to the seat. Like I'll raise my hips, because for me to get good knee flexion on a leg press, my hips want to raise. And now with heavy loads, and if your hips coming up, you're going to potentially hurt your back.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to roll your hips and you're going to roll your spine. So I put my body in the position from the start where it's going to go, but now it's completely stable. Like my back is supported. I'm locked in from day to day. You had mentioned consistency, right? It's literally Groundhog Day. Like I found the setup that allows me to keep my body super locked in, and it allows me to keep the intensity up. Right now that I'm locked in, I have nothing else to worry about. I don't got to worry about the fucking barbell rolling off my back, the J hooks, the setup, the 3-step out of the rack where your feet are in place. Like now you're a little crooked. Like there's a lot of little things that with the free weight, with the leg press or a hack squat is like, all right, I literally see, I can put my feet, I got it, like this is perfect. I'm lining up. I can see, there's on a barbell on my back. I can set myself up and then go into the movement. And now the mouthpiece. So I don't mean to offend anyone or you, or if I can say this, if you've never contemplated using a mouthpiece when you train, I might think you might not be training hard enough. I'm not saying you need a mouthpiece, but you're telling me you're never fucking want to grind down. You're fighting for that rep, bro.
Yeah.
So now the mouthpiece is there. I'm not worried about like, oh, don't bite your lip, looking stupid. When I train, I might look a little crazy. I'm grinding on a mouthpiece, but that's right to I'm going right to grinding on the mouthpiece. It creates more consistency. So when you're really training hard and you're digging deep, and you're like on that last rep, and I'm a grinder. So now I put the mouthpiece in there. I know that's what I do. I'm gonna grind. I'm just gonna bite down on that shit. I'm gonna lean into it, and I'm gonna fight.
Yeah, I asked because I actually grind my teeth at night. So usually I used to, but it's something I kind of grew out of.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. So I'm like, I was very interesting. I'm like, are you really going to the point where you're gonna break your, you know what I'm saying? Like it's very interesting, man.
So some of the athletes I really look and I admire them training. Some of them will use mouthpieces, or like on a hard set will like take their shirt up into their mouth, because like if you're grinding on that set,
they're
like
in there.
you get a life or death situation, you get into something like you might fucking grind. Like that's literally how for you to continuously stimulate tissue. Again, 15 years of doing this, it's not. You got to get used to being uncomfortable. And so the mouthpiece, for me, it just creates that consistency again. Like I know I need to grind out this set. There's only a handful of sets in this workout I'm going to do. I need to get right to the violent part of the set. I'm calculated with the load that I used previously. I need to outperform the last session. It doesn't mean I need to add weight. It doesn't mean I need to add reps. But if I know the proximity to like the last rep is like, like really like a slow grind. And then 3 more workouts, like that last rep is like slow, but that's progress.
Yeah.
That's progressive overload. Did that rep become easier? Now, if I can continuously like, hey, maybe I could have done 1 more rep. I will leave it there. So that's the one thing like we had touched on previously, like training. There's many ways to get to that point where you're saying body move, and it's like, bro, you're giving everything you got. Like, all right, so you work out with a spotter, like, great, that's cool. It's gonna help you keep up the intensity. At the end of the day, that's what matters most. There needs to be intensity. There's got to be effort. There's got to be intensity. And the only thing is, if you're just randomly throwing intensity, how do you know you're making progress? So that's the one thing to keep in the back of your mind. And in which there's so many ways to get to that point B, right? And point B being intensity, telling your body to move when it can't. Just remember, the road you took to get there. Meaning like, okay, if I did what exercise, how many reps, how much weight, and I dropped the weight down again for 2 drop sets, like whatever, a superset, like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's so much variety to get there, but if there is no rhythm to your madness, you're gonna be like, and I just say, I see dudes in the gym, like look the same, but I see them leave the gym like they went to war, sweaty, nasty, and but they're not really making progress, and it's because there's no rhythm to their madness. There's there's got to be a little system. You got to make progress.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I've been in that road, so I know what it is, and I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, there's something I'm not doing right, because I've gotten to that point.
Yeah.
I get. I appreciate the war side, but at the same time, like you got to be making some kind of progress. So totally agree. Totally need that. 100%. Now you've been using bands too, as far as like a lot of the weight sets that you have. Are they also to just kind of keep? What is the purpose of bands when you're doing weight sets?
I don't really, as of the past few years, I haven't been using bands too much, like on load wise, but I will use bands to help me put like pads in place. Like for like example, like my ulna and radial are kind of long. So for like most bench press machines or chest press machines, like the machine will reach its travel, and like I still have much more flexion to produce here in my chest. Yeah. So if I put a pad behind my back, it allows me to get a little bit more range of motion.
Yes.
So, but the idea behind bands is to, increase the resistance profile of some movements. Now, I don't reverse band, which is like you put a band, so it's like kind of like pulling the weight for you. And this is like really big in like the hack squat world. But realistically, what that does is it's assisting you in the most hardest part of the movement. But bands there's like, it makes, for example, like when banding is done in a way to really increase the tension at the part of the movement where it's the easiest, so like the lockout of the bench press or like a chest press, like here's, you're pretty much good. Like you pretty much got it. Like here is like, oh shit, this is hard. The bands typically lose tension down here where it's hard, but then as you go up into the part where the movement's easier, the bands make the load heavier. So it just changes the tension profile a little bit, but from what the resistance training research is kind of trending right now, it seems like the most important part of many of the movements is the part like here on the chest press, like where the muscle is completely lengthened out, or like on a lat pull down, like when your lats are like really extended here, or like when you're squatting and your knees are bent and like the muscles are in their longest position. And the bands don't really seem to add too much tension in those positions, but they can be advantageous if like you are, training a really long time and you're just get discomfort on other movements, but let's say like, you just don't get discomfort on like the hack squat, let's just say example, but you're just haven't been making too much progress on it. And a good thing that you can implement would be bands to add tension to the spot where it's easiest, right?
Right.
So then potentially overloading the muscles at that point, then you can remove the bands and in theory be able to add more weight on the mechanism, the machine, and be able to progress at a higher load now without the bands. So like the bands kind of assist you. It's a long road of like just stimulating. It's not overnight. It's not like if you use bands once, you're going to be magically, but if implemented properly, the idea is it makes the exercise harder at the easiest point. And then over time, you would get better at that part. And now you can add more load and hopefully make new progress.
Progressive overload.
Progressive overload. And more tricks.
Yeah. Just to build a little more discomfort so that you could keep going further and further and further. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Awesome. So okay, what is the hardest challenge you ever had to face in your life? Like, what is the biggest challenge you
All right. To make the decision to step away from a business that I had invested in. Long story short, I got as a weight loss consulting facility that I helped grow, and but it's like the whole up and down is like a lot of drama. At one point, I went on to like kind of do some part time work with these dudes, and I was really impressed with what they were doing. I was like, "Yo, this is awesome! What you guys are doing, this and that." And they liked me. They're like, "Dude, you're a superstar! Like every time you get a phone call for a lead, like they're coming in. Like we weren't getting this many people into the facility, and like you're closing them." And I'm not like just telling the truth. Like you're coming
had?
into our private gym. We're gonna help you. Keep you accountable. And what we were doing was like a small group training, and small group training is great because it creates a price point for the consumer that's more manageable. And as a scheduling fitness instructor, you more or less like you aren't like a client cancels, you have like the hour of open space. But with a small group, you kind of have like a block where you're like, all right, I'll be at the gym from like 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. Coming at your time. We're gonna make things happen. I'm gonna oversee your training, and it could be tough at sometimes because you'll have a lot of clients at 1 hour. It's like but
Yeah.
control chaos. I make it happen. I'm really good at what I do. And this whole business model is like they wanted me to come on, like, hey man, what's going to get you to come on board? We want you to be a partner. And like the one dude's family was super wealthy, but they didn't want to fund him because he had too many other business failures, if you would. And his business partner was a Marine background, hardworking, and like no money. So like they literally started this thing off with like no cash. And they're like, yo, we want you on board, this and that. And like, so I threw down. I like what we were doing, but I threw down, became a business partner, and I guess didn't do enough research. The one dude was like, military background, but also like addicted to drugs and such, post traumatic stress syndrome, and the other dude, like family super wealthy, but just didn't want to fund him. So it made sense at the time, but then like later I didn't do enough research. We were like illegally subleasing out of a small place in the back, and then like they were the main occupants of the property were like getting evicted. Like, and I was like, what? So we're just doing this whole thing. We have like 100 odd plus clients,
Right.
and so well, I'm not doing too good at telling the story, but like at this point,
So
I'm like invested this time, this money. Like I need these things to happen. So it was like the family finally stepped in and was like, we see you guys got the clients to the one to their son. They're like, all right, we're gonna help you. Like we see you're finally doing something, but like they didn't like the military partner, so they made him kick him out, and they're like, we'll give you money, but you need to be the sole owner. So it's like I kind of like that investment in time and everything. It's like I lost. They bought me out and gave me a little bit of extra, but now at this point I was like just would you say like a manager, if you will, or like I don't know.
yeah.
So I went from a part owner to like a manager in a sense, and at the point in time is like I just like I feel like I was being taken advantage of. Like it was my program. Like I taught them how to do the small group training before it was just like boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh yeah, battle rope, burpee. But then that's very basic. I was like, all right, we got a gym, we got like racks, machines, like literally, like, and I was just overseeing like an orchestra of people, like watching 10 different people train, giving them progressive overload, making sure their form is safe, like using a megaphone, like, all right, Mrs. Jones, like this, literally, clients loved it. And at one point in time, it's just like, I didn't realize like, yo, I'm being taken advantage of. This is unfortunate. So I stepped away from what I loved to do. Like, you know what I mean? So I guess that was the hardest thing for me. But I mean, I had a hard breakup with a girl who I was with for a little bit, and like she completely went crazy. Like, just like it's rough, like hitting me and such. Like so,
Like she got physical.
yeah, like bad.
Oh
Like,
shit.
and it's like as a guy, you kind of can't do anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that was really tough because this is all about the. She was also the one at the time who was like my biggest fan and like pushed me to go and step away from the business. And then so like it was like this whole time frame. It was short, like step away from the business, coach people on your own, and all right, great. So it was like this uplifting part, and then we're like just too much partying. Like I don't party or anything, but like the bottle girls that I'm attracted to or that look, they party.
Yeah.
So like just too much partying and violent bipolarness, and it was just tough. Like I had just signed this lease. She was on the lease with me and everything. It's like this is toxic. Like I had to get away from it, but she like wasn't really making money at the time, so it's like I just walked away and like paid for her to stay in this home because I want to have bad credit. Moved back to my parents' house. Like that was like a real tough situation.
Yeah.
But
what was your biggest takeaway from that? What was your biggest lesson?
Man, biggest lesson. Well, like so it was a real short time frame where like realizing like I got taken advantage of in the work world, like the career, like the business I pretty much fucking built up, or excelled. Like they had the base, but I was like, no one wants boot camp.
Yeah.
So know your worth, I guess. Know your worth, and know that things are always like with a relationship aspect, like people change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And even me, like we all change, and just understand that people won't always in a relationship, like the idea is to go parallel together, but things might not go like that. And just understand that some things are out of your power, and you're better off just knowing that you're better off alone. You know what I mean? Like don't stick around, don't do something because you're used to it. Like like don't be in a bad relationship either way. Like a bad business relationship, you got to get out of there. A bad emotional relationship, like it's not worth it. You're better off alone, bro. So
yeah, I think about from that perspective, I think every relationship be synergetic. You know what I mean? It shouldn't even if you bring 5, they bring 5. It shouldn't even be 10. It should always be 5 times 5, 25.
I like that.
Like kind of like have that synergy and
Yeah.
almost like multiplier effect. Because if not, like you have a short time, and it's like that's really what it is.
On top of that, just a random tangent.
Yeah.
Ever since the pandemic, as I realized like how fast time, like short time, like time is really, dude, time is the most valuable asset that we have.
Absolutely.
And it goes by so quick. And that's one thing, another like training, sense of urgency. Like I'm in there, like I'm not like it's that short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's been 5 years since I've been here in Miami, and it feels like just the other day I drove down.
Yeah.
But it's really been 5 years, man. And it kind of gives me anxiety sometimes how time just doesn't stop. It just goes and it's going.
It goes. It's unforgiving.
No. The Father Time don't care about you. He's going. The show must go on. He's going.
Now you're a natty athlete. You're obviously, I think you was telling me that you were going to step into a show. You've been training, and you have like there's league, right? What's the league again?
Right now, I'm in the PNBA, which stands for Professional Natural Bodybuilding Association. And this season I'm not competing, but last year was probably like one of the best seasons I've ever had as an athlete. Took home a first place, a couple of second places, got qualified for the Natural Olympia, got dusted over there. And, but it's something that you do for life. And like some of the dudes that were beaten, that like the first place at the Natural Olympia last year is like a 45-year-old Australian dude. So like natural bodybuilding is a game of patience. You know what I mean? So
is that something that you can continue? You're planning to?
Oh, without a doubt. Like I'm gonna live the lifestyle for forever. Like resistance.
And the competition side.
Yeah. I don't. Without a doubt. Like, you just, it's kind of fun, like to see where you're at, and look back. And I definitely, I'm not going to say I'm retired, especially within the drug-free world. Like some of the best guys they're older. Like a dude I look up to, Ken Bellary, he's like 60 and change. He just got his IFBB pro card as a natty at the Pittsburgh Masters. Dude, 60 years old, still going at it.
That's amazing.
It is, dude.
Oh,
and that's the thing, but when you're natural, it's like, it's just, it's who you are. It's you, just like over the years. And like I said, like the quality of life, a doctor might say something like before, like increase your muscle mass, lower your body fat. Like this guy's probably going to live a really long time, not using any drugs, just all natural, maintaining healthy, low body fat levels and very high muscle tissue. Dude, 60, you would never know. Like,
yeah, that's amazing.
I can't say like, of course I'm going to step back on stage. It's not like, I'm not relying on like some of the dudes that retire. We're talking like IFBB guys, just because they just can't sustain the drugs anymore. And that's some of the best athletes are the ones that their bodies can't take the high doses of drugs. But when it comes to natural athletes, like it's just really how you look on stage, and you'd be surprised how, some of the best natural bodybuilders, like you wouldn't even like in clothing don't look that incredible, but when they take their clothes off and they're on stage, like the way your proportions, like small bones, feminine bone structure in bodybuilding is amazing. You're at a huge advantage if the smaller your bones are, the smaller your waist is, and like you put on a little bit of muscle on your shoulders, you got like this huge taper. You look phenomenal on stage. So that's the one thing, I know that like I'm not skeletally the best advantages to be like the smallest waist bodybuilder, but I know like I'm good. Like I've won shows, I've won money, I've qualified for the Natural Olympian. So I'm definitely gonna do for a long time.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I even catching first place, a couple of second place, that says a lot.
Yeah, and
100%.
I taken second place to 2018 Mr. Olympia. Like this dude, this German guy, like dude who's just really good at like coming close, like being like if I look at someone, like I'm literally neck and neck with the world's best. So like it's cool to say that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hate to like talk about myself like I'm cool, bro. But it is what it is, bro. Like
Well, I think you got to recognize the hard work, man. It's important.
Without a doubt.
It's very important. How do you stay with the healthy mindset, with the natty mindset here in a place like Miami that's sometimes very chaotic and there's just a lot of distractions and things like that? Is there something you do like as far as like mindfulness and things like that, or?
Just that, being mindful. Just being mindful. I'm not easily influenced by my surroundings. I kind of like forever, like just never really influenced by my surroundings. Like being from Jersey, I remember like when I first kind of stopped BMXing, I used to have long hair and like starting to go out now with some dudes, and like I remember like seeing a kid who I went to high school with, and I was like, "Yo, what's up, Dan?" He's like, "What's up?" Like he didn't know who I was because I cut my hair and I put on some muscle. And the next thing you know, this kid Bronson's like, "Yo, Urash." He's like, "Get the fuck out of here, Dan." It's like, "That's Urash?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, bro, what the fuck?" So I was like, just never really influenced by this. But like, I mean, I would go out with my boys. They're all drinking, partying.
Yeah.
I don't drink.
Right.
And I remember like Jersey. This is like going back 10 years, 12 years now. Like Jersey Shore, like everyone's doing steroids, and like just was never really influenced to do such because it's like I just knew like the training I was doing, they were like kind of taken back that the fact like the progress that I made. So I had kids on steroids asking me for training advice. This is prior, like, you know what I mean? Like this is kind of where it all like stemmed into like my career. And I remember though, like now we're at the Jersey Shore, like literally at the Jersey Shore, and my boys are like talking me up, like, "Bro, you got a fucking juice, man. Look at you. Yeah, you'll be amazing. This and that." And I'm like, "Nah, man." And then like they literally talked me into it. Like, "Just one cycle, bro. 1 cycle." Like my boy literally whips out a fucking thing of this. Now I got like 6 of my bros like, "Come on, man. Oh, fuck it." They're all on juice. I'm like, "Fuck it. All right, bro. Fuck it." The kid's like, "Are you serious?" They're like, yeah. So he goes, they didn't have a syringe. But thank God that happened, because like I would have I was almost influenced by my surroundings, but there was no syringe around.
Right. So,
And that would have kind of, I wouldn't have that lifelong natural thing now. Like now I look back on it, like it's like, I think it's really cool. Like to say, I'm like, there's not many lifelong natural bodybuilders, but from the time frame of from when I stopped BMX into competing, I passed every urine analysis and 7-year polygraph examination. So it's like, it's kind of cool.
I congratulations on that. That's,
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Is that timing though? Like,
yeah, it's funny because like even as a young kid, you know, I haven't been in the best of circles and surroundings. You know what I mean? And I've seen, you know, I've been in places where, you know, there's been tons of fucking cocaine, all kinds of drugs, and all kinds of shit. Never touched any of that shit once, bro.
Same.
Ever.
Like, no, like that's the thing. Like, but this is the dudes. This is the circle. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
and I don't judge. Okay, but they're really like, we laughed.
Yeah.
We chilled. Like, you know, we bagged girls. Like that's what it was about, right? And but like, I don't just like this never really appealed to me. I don't know. Maybe just my parents working so hard to give me just like the bare minimum. Like I didn't. I feel like, I don't know, just like that aura or.
No, I definitely, like, I vibe with that 100%. It's something I respect very much. You know what I'm saying? So that, you know, it goes to say, what does success mean to you?
You know, I guess it would be like sending out a task, right, and accomplishing a task, but not like that one task has been accomplished, and then setting up another standard. But like I talked to you before about like the American dream, like literally it changes. So success, the American dream, where I am now, and like just being around people, working with people who are at very, you know, high level business, and like I just see the amount of like stress that they're dealing with, and I think about like, all right, dude, my guy is making millions, but it's like he's almost not really utilizing the millions. Like I feel like the life quality isn't there, so I'd rather not. Like it's tough. That question is tough. Like it's changed many times, and it's going to continue to change. But success, realistically, for me, I would say is like being proud of what I am. You know, like I don't go to sleep at night like knowing I'm I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, like a sneaky conniving salesperson, like, you know, or like going to buy a car, like another guy's like, yeah, I'll give you a deal.
Yeah, car salesman.
Going back in the room, it's like, no, you signed a lease, and it's like nothing you really looked forward to, but like you're talking about it. Right. And like, how does that guy sleep at night? Like you kind of just screwed me over. Like I do an honest business. I do what I love. I try to help people who are lost in the sauce of all the information out there, and try to fine tune, you know, their things. So success would be, you know, I think just being proud of what I'm doing, and setting out small goals, and accomplishing them, and just continuing to set out small goals, and continuing to accomplish them. It's tough though. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's your take, you know. Obviously, it's your life experience and stuff like that. So obviously, I want to know that. What about as far as if somebody wants to contact you? Are you doing any type of like coaching or nutrition programs, things like that?
So right now, I'm doing a 43-day pizza diet challenge, and why 43 days? And it doesn't necessarily have to be pizza, but what I'm trying to get at with 43 days is like it's enough time for me to help this individual create new habits, and also enough time for me to show them like strength progress, training progress. Like 2 weeks ain't enough. 3 weeks, maybe we can see some. I need enough time with a person to commit to my program for me to show them like, dude, I'm going to make sure from where if you're even like the most advanced, like I say this, like I would love to have, and I know this is a tangent, like the most enhanced athlete in elevation give me the opportunity to train them. and like, clinically look at their nutrition, like get them on a metabolism tester while they're running their insane dose. Like, let's see where you're actually at. Like, let's make this a really fine-tuned project. And utilizing what we know about resistance training science, nutrition science. All right, you're enhanced, fine. Let's take all the parameters in which we know. I want to make you like amazing. I don't care if you're on drugs or not. But so that's my thing. Like, I'm doing a 43-day challenge because it's enough time for me to implement and actually show change. I need enough time for them to commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if someone wants to reach out to me, I am coach.russ. Nope, wait. Russ.coach on Instagram. Shoot me a DM, and I would love to take you from whatever level you're on. If it's entry level, and you haven't done anything for 30 years and you're just like noticing like that I mentioned earlier, like the doctor's like, hey, you need to increase your muscle, you need to lose some weight. You're trying to lose some body fat and increase your muscle. Let's do it. Let's start. It's almost kind of cool, the earlier level people, because you can eat. I hate to say the word easy, but they're going to notice progress rapidly, continuously, than it is going to be the person who's been training for 5 years or so. And actually, that just made me think. And so for my girlfriend, right, Brazilian, she actually has more training experience than me. And the Brazilians love bodybuilding. She's been lifting weights for longer than I have. And I remember when we first met, we met at a pool party and we vibed off of the physiques and whatnot. And then we started dating, and I'm like literally like chomping on pizza. She's like, I'm eating pizza. And like, she's looking on my Instagram like, this guy's a champion natural bodybuilder. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And then like we go to train. She's like, what are you gonna do today? I'm like, I'm gonna do chest and back. She's like, okay. So then, like the next day, she's like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I'm gonna do legs. All right. So the next day comes out, what are you doing? Chest and back. That's it. Legs. That's it for me. Upper or lower. Like and now the idea is like, again, stimulus to fatigue. So she's like, all right, enough's enough. She's like, I want to know. I want to learn. I'm like, all right. So now I take this girl who's actually in the industry, who's got 15 years of bodybuilding experience, like this shit you see in Miami, like the 4-step drop set. Come on, go push it to the max. I make her do less actual sets per gym, but making sure that each set is efficiently stimulating. And she's a professional bodybuilder now. So she's been competing prior to that. And I'll keep it real. She's from Brazil. Even did a cycle of Anavar and to compete, like the prep from her coach, clenbuterol. Now, this is very common. And in the realm of she did that so long ago, she actually was able to get her natural pro card because it was like so much time has elapsed. So she was able to pass a 7-year drug test, get her natural pro card, and then we actually did another show after with the NPC to get her IFBB pro card. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at here is this is a girl who's done it all, fitness program, Brazilian style intensity, even did some steroids. All right. And again, not that she's a bad person, steroids are bad, none of that. It's just what they know in Brazil. It's just just what it is. It's just everywhere. All right. And so after letting me completely coach her, and she no drugs, strictly just science-based, eating pizza, eating burgers, but balancing it in. Now we run a business together. She consults with all kinds of people, especially like a lot of Brazilians, because they just don't, the culture is like, nah, man, look at like the dinos, and you're watching train, it's a 4-step drop set and everything. But anyway, she's never made better progress. She's got more experience than I am, and she's still making progress. And if you watch her train, it's literally the same. Like I approach that of me. It's like this training for stimulus, trying to keep the muscle damage and the fatigue to a minimum, like just straight making your body respond to training. And so within that, before I went to a tangent, it's yeah, man, 43 days, 43-day pizza challenge. No matter what level you're on, my goal is to take you to another level. Amateur, entry level, intermediate, super advanced. Let's literally look at what the medical literature and the resistance training science suggests, and implementing it into what's already been working for that person and taking it to the next level.
If you had advice to give somebody starting out in the gym right now, young the youth today, what would be your advice?
Keep it basic. Just get there. Like any training is good training at that level. Like just get there. It's training. You're hitting the gym. The more advanced you get, I feel like there's things you need to focus on to keep advancing. But if you really want to be good at it, get used to being uncomfortable. Meaning, like, hard reps, like the mouthpiece that. Like, you're not going to get there and, be comfortably just like squeezing your muscle. Like, yeah, I'm just going to squeeze. I feel a burn. Like, it's good. Like, it's just got to be violent. It's going to be uncomfortable if you want to continuously making progress. And, lean into the challenge. And have fun with it as best as you can. Find a way to look forward to it, getting uncomfortable.
Love it. Coach Russ, man, this was great. I learned a lot about the nutrition side of things because you're very technical with that. Again, people could reach you through Instagram.
I think that's the best route. Yeah, for
that's
now.
the best route.
Yeah, it's like it's real low barrier. It's not like my phone number. Next thing you know, like it leaks out. I'm getting phone calls. It's just like I feel like Instagram is real like low key. You can look into my bio. You can see some of my other active clients. That's the one thing with social proofing. Like, I wish some people were more open to posting. Like I've got clients who I've never posted just because they're private people. You got to respect that. But some of the kind of clients are great. Like I got some testimonials on there. You can see them specifically. And the people who are on my Instagram and I have testimonials they're open. Like you can reach out to them at any point and like they'll speak about my services and my character, if you will. And at the end of the day, like when I say to my clients or oncoming client is your success is very important to me because if my clients aren't succeeding, I'm not succeeding. The better my clients do, the better I do. So it's like super important. And, all the advice and suggestions I give aren't just random. I'm trying to figure out a way to educate as I implement. Like the one thing I like to say too is like someone comes on board, like their journey, like their fitness, their health journey, it's a plane flying. It's already flying. We're going to take what you're already doing and try and get that plane to fly a little faster, a little more stable. So, the plane is already flying and we're just going to build it more efficiently with my programming.
Well, again, I thank you for your time. Honored to have you here.
Yo, it's been a pleasure.
Do this again. And I wish you the best too on the next journeys as far as competitions go.
Thank you.
And I'll catch you in the gym
tomorrow, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you,
my guy. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And all day, every day, Empire is the way.